I'm speaking from a position of not privilege or whatever, because I still did the work. I still invested my money, when Bitcoin was $3,000. But at the same time, I bet on myself and I believed in myself. And I'm not trying to turn this into some Tony Robbins cheesy, rah-rah type of rant, but I made my bets. My bets were correct. I have the ability to take my foot off the pedal. If I was 18 in 2025 at the time of this recording, and I'm making $12 an hour serving, $20 an hour serving, you got to take a percentage of that $20 and dedicate it towards those slices of your pie, those different asset classes. And if that's Bitcoin at 107 grand, maybe your 38-year-old self will thank you 20 years from now, right? You really have to adopt that mentality of, okay, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time is today. And I think a lot of people, again, delaying gratification by eating the marshmallow or not eating the marshmallow. I think a lot of people, they want to eat the marshmallow because they see houses 5Xing over the past 10 years, where it's like, I'm never going to be able to own a house. Let me become a socialist or a communist, to your point, So it's buying the shitcoin versus buying the Bitcoin.
Yeah. And it's the shortcut. There's no shortcuts, right? And that's the thing. Everyone's trying to shortcut the process. Like, I missed Bitcoin, whatever. But it's like you said, just provide value and save in it long term. So as it becomes a store of value over time that we know it is, and risk off asset, you'll play right into that, and all the printing that's going to happen through the governments and the central banks. It really is wild. Like, everything comes back to those questions of living in those two worlds.
For any young person listening to this episode, if you've gotten this far with my psychopathic rants, I appreciate it. For anyone listening to this that's younger, they have to keep printing. That's all. That's the one takeaway from this interview. They have to keep printing, period. Everyone's 401k depends on it. Everyone's Roth IRA depends on it. Everyone's 403b, 529 plan, it all depends on it. And if it doesn't, maybe it'll be French Revolution, guillotines in the streets, but I don't think so. I still think we're in bread and circus stage because it didn't happen after Enron. It didn't have to happen after 07, 08. We just had quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, 4, infinity. And that's all that's going to keep happening. Look at COVID 2020, March 2020 went down 20, 30%. You know how many people I had reaching out to me on my consulting platform to ask me, oh, I'm going to sell everything, I'm down. I go, dude, whatever you do, don't sell. They have to print. Guess what? 5, 6, 7 months later, new all-time highs. They injected the system with trillions. So they can do that until they can't. What does that mean? Until they get spread too thin, like all great empires have ended by being spread too thin, whether it's geographically, whether it's multiple wars on multiple fronts, whether it's the money being made up with, coin clipping or whatever you want to call it, or containing less silver than it used to. If you're looking at like the Roman Empire, for example, that's how all these great empires collapse, is too much expansion. When Napoleon tried to go into Russia, what happened? When Hitler tried to go into Russia, what happened? So you just have to look at it that way. Roman Empire, German, whatever. I don't want to call them Neanderthals, but barbarian tribes, war is a racket. War is very profitable. And when you need to hit that reset button, let's just start a little bit of war, baby. That's what happens every single time. And I hope to God it doesn't, but I don't know. We may be at that late stage of a bull market where we need a little bit of war. We've been in a 13-year bull market, dude.
Yeah, it's
longer.
It's wild. It is truly wild. I could literally go for hours and hours with you, but I got to keep it somewhat timely. What do you think about the Bitcoin treasury explosion we've seen? Like, is this taking over altcoin season? Like, I feel like all of a sudden, like Marco and Brandon are about to start a Bitcoin treasury company here. We're going to start raising some capital and, create an LLC, and like, we're good to go. Like, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, who remembers in, 2017, when you had like beverage companies saying they were a crypto company? Do you remember what I'm talking about? And then like their stock shoots up, it was like Lemonade or something, or Nantucket. I can't remember who's like said like, oh, we're a crypto beverage company or something like that. So that's what I feel like treasury companies are now. Look at MetaPlanet. They're the OG, MicroStrategy, the OG. You have Semler. I feel like we're in that like crypto beverage company stage of these treasury companies. I feel like everyone and their mother wants to do it. And a lot of people are not going to like this, dude. And I don't care, because I really don't care. I'm in the late stage of my social media career. I'm kind of that old guy that's just talking shit. I feel like a lot of these Bitcoin influencers, dude, half of them, I feel like they don't even have that much Bitcoin. Let's just be honest. Is this like the elephant in the room? I feel like these people that are running these, oh, I'm a treasury company, I'm this and that. It's like, bro, I don't even think you have that much Bitcoin. Like that Twitter influencers. I'm like, I think I have whatever. I'm not going to give specific numbers, but I feel like I have multiples of their Bitcoin. It's like, I'm just the personal finance guy. But ironically on Twitter, I'm 100% Bitcoin content, which is kind of funny. So to answer your question about the treasury companies, I think a lot of it's just the money grab. I'll be completely honest. Some of it has, if you're like a sailor and you're a net positive, in my opinion, of Bitcoin. So some people say Sailor's a Fed. Some people say he's, huge, spokesperson. I like Sailor. I genuinely like him. But the late stage adopters, like the video game company in Japan is now a treasury company. It's like, really? Are you really a Bitcoin treasury company, or is this a money grab? Is your stock floundering and now you're all of a sudden a Bitcoin treasury company? Do you have a failing product and all of a sudden you're a treasury company? So that's kind of how I feel about this.
Yeah. It's going to be wild to see this moving forward. It really is. I mean, it's like we talked about the cycles earlier. What happens in these cycles as it inevitably goes up and down? Who's swimming naked? Who's not? What's going to happen?
100%. 100%.
What are your thoughts about just Bitcoin? So obviously, like you have Strike is coming out with their lending product. You've got a lot of just lending. Obviously, there's Let-In and Unchained and stuff like that. What do you foresee with lending? Because again, this goes around this theme again of like what most people don't know, don't understand, right? It's kind of the theme of the show, but also there's a lot of Bitcoiners. We are living in these two worlds, which is another theme of the show, where we've talked a lot about having to live in both those worlds. So you have maybe a fair amount of Bitcoin, or even if you have 0.1, or if you have 1 Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoin or something like that, there's going to be this phase over the coming years here where people are going to want to lend, because again, we still live in this fiat world where the trade is, hey, let's borrow this in this depreciating currency and save in the hard money. So the lending side is getting bigger. There's more of these products, and more people are going to be at a point where they have the ability to lend against their Bitcoin. And so what do you kind of foresee here moving forward as this space kind of grows, and maybe, advice to people when they're kind of looking at this maybe?
Yeah, Brandon, I'm so glad you asked me this, because I came from commercial real estate. So you know what rich families do? Let's say they own an apartment building that's worth, let's just say for easy numbers, $1 million. You know what they do? They take out a 50-60% loan to value refi. They pull out $500,000-$600,000 tax free. They live off that. Their tenants pay off that mortgage, right? And they just rinse and repeat and keep doing that. Obviously, interest rates depend on how much you can get away with. Rents, are your rents high enough to take care of that debt service? But that's basically what rich people do: is they buy, they borrow, they die. Okay. So in commercial real estate, there's this concept called a 1031 exchange. If I own that $1 million apartment building, I sell it for $5 million. I have a capital gains of $4 million, right? Do I want to pay 37% on that $4 million in the form of, capital gains? Or it depends on your bracket, but just for easy numbers, no, of course not. So what do I do with the 1031 exchange? I need to find a like and similar property to buy for $5 million, and I can defer those tax gains. And I keep kicking the can down the road till I die. So now the $5 million building that I never paid taxes on 30 years later when I die is worth $15 million. I'm just making this up. My heirs get that property at the stepped up basis. They never paid taxes during that whole time of me trading these properties. I'm kicking the can down the road, and now I own a $15 million apartment complex and I've paid no taxes on it in 30 years, right? So I think with Bitcoin, it's going to become even more pristine collateral than multifamily. And that's what people are going to do. They're going to borrow against their Bitcoin, live on the fake money, the cash out refi, the $500,000-$600,000 in this example, and they're just going to keep doing that. The only problem with Bitcoin is that it is like gold. It has no intrinsic value. It doesn't throw off cash flow. Apartment buildings throw off cash flow. They have a net operating income. The problem with Bitcoin is that depending on whatever the interest rate is on the loan you take out against your Bitcoin, let's just call it 5% for easy numbers, Bitcoin needs to go up more than 5% for you to have a net wash or a positive gain. If Bitcoin goes up 0% and you're paying 5%, well, then you're out 5%. So the reason for giving you this whole rant is that I think people that own commercial real estate that have had it in their family for generations, they never sell because they just use it as pristine collateral to borrow against. It's almost like a business that has cash flow. The bank sees that it has cash flow. I'm able to slap on a 50-60% loan to value mortgage, pull out that hypothetical 500-600 grand tax free and live off that, right? So that's what people in real estate do. With Bitcoin, again, it doesn't have rents. You're not renting out rooms in a Bitcoin, right? So the number has to keep going up. And if that's the case, people are going to borrow against their Bitcoin, spend the fake money, and keep the pristine collateral in their family for generations. That's the way that I see it.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.